Hey, thanks for tuning in to this guitar lesson on Harmony Hall by Vampire Weekend. It's the first one they've come out with in quite a while, so I was pretty excited to hurry up and get to learning this song so I could teach it to you guys right now, including acoustic guitar, and then I have my electric, because there are some electric guitar parts like kind of hidden in the background that help decorate this. And for those of you keeping track at home, the tempo is around 95, 96, about 95 and a half. I couldn't get a metronome to quite line up exactly to the song. So starting off, just looking at some effects that you might need or other things that you might need. First of all, you need a capo. You'll need a vibrato pedal if you really want to match the sound that they're using, which kind of wavers the pitch, not the volume, but it wavers the pitch. It's called vibrato. You also want kind of like an overdrive pedal of sorts or distortion that will be very light, just like a little gain added to it. And you also want a guitar slide. If you have one of those, you can use that for the electric guitar part. All right, welcome to my crotch cam. So kicking things off, we're going to be using acoustic for the beginning. Capo on the 4th fret. You can play this without a capo probably, but it's basically a nightmare. So capo 4th fret, the song is in B major. So using the capo on 4, we can pretend that we're in G. So our G shape is now actually sounding like a B major. So anyway, this little riff with acoustic is actually very simple. It sounds kind of complicated, but it's pretty easy. So looking at the tab here, we're going to start on the 3rd fret and then do an open 2, open 2, open 2 hammer on all the way up the strings. So it will sound something like this. And then you're going to do the hammer-ons again in sets of 3. So nice and slowly, it'll be 3 with your, I use my middle finger for this, and then open string to pointer finger on the 2nd fret, and then move up to the next string and do the same thing. And then the next string and do the same thing. And then pull it off. And then hammer it on for each string again, but descending this time. And then you're going to start at the beginning again. So here it is again slowly. So I'm pretty much only strumming on the first end of the beginning end of each kind of hammer on. So strum, and then I strum there, and I'm going to just place my finger, strum on the next one, then place, and then strum and place. And then pull it off without strumming. And then strum once at the beginning of each of these sets of 3. So at tempo, it'll be like... And again, I'm only using my middle finger for that first note and then my pointer finger for each of the next. So that happens in the intro, obviously at the beginning of the song, and that continues, and then the next part is actually slightly higher on a different set of strings, but kind of the same thing. But the original guitar will continue playing that same thing. So if you have a looper pedal, you can start looping it right there, and then at 16 seconds in, the acoustic goes up. I think this is in the left ear. He goes up one set of strings and kind of plays the same thing. So instead of starting on 3 on the bottom string, it's 3 on this string, the next string. And you play basically the same notes, except for the highest one that you'll play. Instead of it be the 2nd fret, it'll actually be the 1st fret this time. So I'll show you. So this time you're going to play it starting on the A string, and you're going to play... So right there, I hit the 1st fret instead of the 2nd fret like the first time. And then it's the same thing, the same notes, and the same kind of sequence. So here's a little faster. And each of these you'll play twice, and then it will usually add one away or take one away. So all together, it will sound something like this. I'll play it sort of slow for you. The pre-chorus and chorus from here on out have pretty much the exact same progression, and you can play those on acoustic. They actually just use piano, but here are the chords if you were using a capo on the 4th fret still. So it'll be D, G, C, C again. And that's the whole progression for like the rest of the song, basically, except for that acoustic riff part. So again, these only work with the capo on the 4th fret. You can't play like a D like you normally would. You have to have capo 4. And actually on the and of 4 for that last chord for C, you can lift off your pointer finger and make it C major 7. So it will sound like... and then do it again. That's kind of what they do in the song for like a passing tone. Now if you didn't have a capo, you could take this off, and here are the chords, the actual chord names, what they would sound like if you were talking to a piano player or something, or if you wanted to play without a capo for this part. It'd be F sharp, B, E. Alright, so now we're going to be using the electric guitar, and this part actually uses the slide, I believe, but I'm not too great with it. But if you guys are pretty good with your intonation, you can use the slide here. I'm going to show you it without the slide for now, just so you can see exactly where my fretting hand is. But yeah, for this part, you're going to use like your slight gain and then your vibrato. So my tone sounds like this. And you'll want to kind of use your bridge pickup here for a more trebly sound. And this comes in at 3:22 into the song. This is kind of a verse. You'll play the following notes. I'll show you it with the slide because it sounds like they're using one. So it's kind of tricky with the slide. If you can't get it down or you don't have a slide, that's fine. You can just kind of play it as is. And the second part of that phrase comes at 3:32, and it sounds something like this. I'll use it without the slide this time. And this part, you're only gonna play this first half with the slide, and then you're just gonna actually like not use it at all for the second half of it. So here it sounds with the slide like intended, or how it sounds on the recording to me. So you saw there I kind of took my slide off and just fretted with my pointer finger there. Alright, go ahead and set that slide to the side. We're going to be using that later in the song then for the other electric part. Alright, buckle up because this is the hardest part of the song by far. It's just pretty fast arpeggios. These arpeggios start at 3:41. So starting off, this was the first set of arpeggios, and you're going to palm mute like most of these here with a light distortion. So here's the first 2 arpeggios, which is the same. And then here is the next 2 in that same measure. The first measure altogether is... Alright, moving on to the next measure. This one is just the same arpeggio repeated 4 times total. Alright, moving on to the next measure, you're just going to take your previous shape and shift it up 2 frets and do that twice. And now you're going to move it to like an open C shape kind of. And now this is going to be the hardest jump in the whole bit. You're going to go up to this string and do this pattern. You're going to play that 3 total times. And the last 4 notes are a little different. So the whole measure. And that's a pretty big stretch, so that one's probably the toughest. Alright, moving on to the next measure. This is at 3:51. And then you're going to move up to bar all 4s. And this is a tough one also. You're going to move up till you hit your open strings a couple of times. So here it is a little slower. Alright, moving on to the next one. This one has a 1-note variation between the first 2. And then the second half, this is kind of a stretch as well. And like I said, I can't play this at tempo yet, so I'm going to play the whole thing for you nice and slow so you can follow along. And that's the whole thing. And again, just practice that as much as you can. That will help with the dexterity. And if you can't play it, try to get a keyboard player that can play it. It might be a little easier on keys. And after that really tough arpeggio run, you're going to actually end up on the 7th fret of the high E string, which will be our next note in the next phrase. And this will be on a slide, but since you just came out of that tough arpeggio part, you can't get a slide ready in time. So you're just going to play... and then you'll resolve it to the 14th fret. If you have a second guitarist or someone else is playing that arpeggio part, you can play it the slide like so. And that takes us to about 4 minutes into the song. And then to close out the song, it's going to be all slide guitar from here on out, and it will sound like this. And then you're going to play this section a couple more times, and it's just four different notes. 2 of them are repeated, but it will sound like this. And at the very end, that acoustic part kind of plays out towards the end. And at the very, very end, at 4:49 in, the electric guitar is still kind of playing a little bit of melodies here. And this is kind of what it sounds like. It's like really just kind of improv, it sounds like to me. He just kind of goes... just kind of something similar to that. You can kind of mess around on like a B major scale if you want to. And he also kind of ends with this little... that little kind of thing. Alright, I want to take time to thank my sponsors. Well, actually I don't have any sponsors, but I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you like this kind of music, you can check out my channel for more lessons and covers of songs similar to this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.